I've played a video game. It's called Ecco the Dolphin, and I don't... let's talk game design. Back in the 90s, I had a Mega Drive, known to our American friends as the Sega Genesis. On that Mega Drive, I had all of the Sonic games, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Altered Beast, Outrun, Gunstar Heroes, and almost all of the well-known Sega classics. What I did not have was Ecco the Dolphin. Now, in 2026, I have a wife. Say hello, wife.
Hi, wife.
Unlike me, my wife had access to Ecco the Dolphin, to the point that Ecco is one of her most revered and nostalgically beloved games of her memory. So, obviously, good husband that I am, running a YouTube channel about game design, I thought, yes, Ecco is a classic, I should take the time to fill in this gap in my memory and find out why. Spoilers, viewer, I did not. We'll start with the genuinely impressive positives. The Mega Drive came with a controller that looked like this. As you can see, the D-pad on the left is circular with a small indent where it looks designed for your thumb to roll smoothly from one point to the next. Incidentally, this is why Sonic's circular looping and smooth ramp mechanics felt so satisfying, and why I was better at Street Fighter 2 on the Mega Drive than I was on the SNES. That was my excuse at the time, and I'm sticking to it. In Ecco the Dolphin, you are a dolphin, swimming underwater. The simple act of swimming feels incredible. You move around in smooth circular motions that are clearly designed to take advantage of the round D-pad under your thumb, gliding around with the kind of underwater agility you'd expect from being a dolphin. There is a strong sense of weight to the way that you move, so that movement comes with a flowing motion under your thumb, giving tactile feedback that you passively learn to master the more that you play. I've mentioned Sonic already because this is a video about Sega and you have to, but in the original trilogy you get something called momentum as a reward. A lot of people out there in the world think that Sonic the Hedgehog is fast by design. Those people are wrong. Sonic in gameplay, when it began, is fast when you earn the right to be fast. You gain momentum and speed by repeated knowledge and mastery of the mechanics and levels that you run through, naturally getting faster and faster through grown experience of the level designs. Ecco is immediately the same, giving you fast-paced movement once you've learned the way the weight and physics of being a dolphin actually work, and when you've committed to memory where most of the hazards or roadblocks are in the level's layout. You can dash, you can hold a button to speed up, you can leap out of the water like dolphins do on those prohibitively expensive tourist boat trips when you go on holiday. Great time to be a dolphin, honestly, especially in the context of... Ecco the Dolphin was released in 1992. I realise there are a lot of you who aren't going to be able to see this depending on the device you're watching on, but other than playing at friends' houses and birthday parties and such, my first proper experience now with Ecco the Dolphin is the Mega CD version on an OLED display, and it looks phenomenal. The sprite quality and density looks like a period-accurate representation of what many of us presumably thought life looked like under the sea, with coral, rocky outcrops, a light gradient kicking in the deeper down you go into the water's depths, and details on the underwater creatures where you need them, like this giant imposing octopus that smacks you on the head if you move too fast. A strong and overt focus on graphical presentation isn't always important. For decades now, we've had games that try and simply push higher graphical quality as if that on its own is enough of a selling point. It is not. But when you're trying to build an atmosphere and enhance immersion in a game's intent, it can sometimes be absolutely vital. And Ecco the Dolphin's visuals are incredibly good at presenting the believable reality of the world you're in, which gets incredibly important later on. You'll notice that I called this segment Presentation because it isn't just about the graphics. This is the Mega CD version, where the soundtrack of the game could play out in full CD audio quality. And there's something haunting and ethereal about the music in Ecco that adds layers of presentational atmosphere to what you're playing around in. I realise this is oddly specific, but when I was young, we visited a public aquarium where they had a glass tunnel that you could walk through, surrounded by fish swimming all around you. And the background music that they had there was a lot like what's in Ecco the Dolphin, which I'm going to just go ahead and assume was intentional. It really wouldn't be the strangest thing that's happening in relation to this game, I promise, and we will get to that. So if the movement mechanics and physics are satisfying and the atmospheric presentation is immersive and beautiful, what could possibly be the problem that I'm having playing Ecco the Dolphin? I haven't got a clue what's happening. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and when I do, a lot of the time, it's really hard to do. Now don't get me wrong, I'm an old man, so I've taken the necessary steps to try and work this out. Specifically, I went back to read the manual, which so many kids today don't even realise existed, let alone that it was often necessary. As a little side note, the manual for Ecco is absolutely amazing, and I recommend you go download and read through it. Among other things, there's just a full-blown page of facts about dolphins that have nothing to do with the game itself, which is great. The manual clues you in on things like the glyphs, which are giant solid crystals that are either in your way or help you to unlock the ones that are in your way. And also how to do things like push rocks and breathe oxygen. Brilliant. What they don't do is tell you the layout of a level. But Zane, I hear you cry, you've learned about the map system. Yes, the system where you see a tiny non-distinct portion of the map that you're in with absolutely no relation to any other part of the map whatsoever. That map. Good. But you know, that's fine. A little obfuscation, trial and error and exploration is actually a positive and rewarding gameplay loop, especially when the atmosphere you've got to explore in is presented in such a beautiful way as this is. It doesn't really matter if trying to find out where you're actually going is a bit like following directions in a hospital, down corridors that all look exactly the same and smell faintly of fish. But then there's... Past this point, obviously, we're going to be getting into spoilers, so if you've ever felt the burning desire to experience the plot of Ecco the Dolphin for yourself, now is the time to pause and come back in about 97 hours once you've looked through game FAQs to find out where to go. Don't lie to me, we all know that's what you're doing. The game starts with Ecco having a lovely, wonderful day with the rest of his pod, hanging out in the free open water, swimming around and letting you as a player learn very freely how the physics and momentum controls work and feel. It's a brilliant, calm, serene little opening, and then, oh God, Jesus Christ, what is going on? A huge tornado sucks up your entire family and leaves you alone and abandoned in the empty landscape of what used to be your beloved childhood home. If this sounds overly dramatic, I will direct you back to the game's manual, which reads, "The sky flashes red. A great wind of water rips everything upward, tearing the life out of the sea. Up they whirl, singers and shells, and all that moves in the ocean. They twist in a spinning funnel, swirling skyward, and they're gone, just as suddenly silence descends. Only you, Ecco, are left, alone in the watery emptiness that now seems far too big." And that's in the manual, so fine, we'll get on with it. Make your way through some jellyfish and some rocks and some very confusing water paths and communicate with some of the living creatures that have been left behind. Most of them tell you that they haven't got a clue what's going on, but they're very sad about it, so off you go. Solve some puzzles, wander around some incredibly confusing underwater caverns and tunnels. And there's a shark warning here, by the way, because there's a part where you swim through a big linear path of water past some sharks. Quite a lot of sharks. It's a bit like driving on the motorway in rush hour, except you're on a moped, and you're also a dolphin. Eventually, after several days, real-time days in real life, you will arrive here, at a giant strand of talking DNA. That giant strand of talking DNA says, "I remember you, and now you need to travel 55 million years into the past via the lost city of Atlantis, so that you can bring back a core part of my basic structure, and I can fix everything." Now I think, Ecco, you are talking to some kind of representation of God. You're a dolphin. So you do that, and after a while you are in fact in Atlantis. Because Atlantis was real, because of course it is. Where, obviously, you discover a written lore history of the Atlantean people losing a war with the inhabitants of a planet named Vortex, which turns up to the Earth every 500 years to eat a lot of things, obviously. So the Atlanteans left behind all of these crystal glyphs, machines, locks, and impossible fish-operated super technologies, which are now very conveniently usable by one extremely stressed dolphin of the future, which is you. And then there's a full-blown documentary about dolphins, for some reason.
When you look at dolphins, they look back.
But that's only on the Mega CD version, which is obviously why it's the one you need to play. We're going to move in pretty quick succession now, because next you find a time machine and travel back 55 million years to before your life form even existed. Here's where I put in a part that made me laugh a lot, because there's a very badly animated sprite of a dinosaur that just sort of picks you up and then drops you somewhere else. You are here to fight the prehistoric version of underwater DNA god, and then go back again to get pulled up into the vortex by an alien race who are also called the Vortex, to fight the alien queen and save all of life on Earth. And then the game is done and you're a historic god-chosen champion of all of time and space. And still a dolphin. I bring all of this up because the escalating madness of the plot really suits the incredibly obtuse and confusing design of so many of the levels and puzzles that you're facing. And here comes the shockingly hot take part that's going to ignite the comments in a lot of very angry people. Ecco the Dolphin is not for me. I didn't understand enough of the mechanics, level, or puzzle design to even tell you anything substantially useful about it. I can't describe to you where it's clever, innovative, or unique besides literally talking to God as a dolphin. Other than happily swimming around doing some jumps out of the sea and appreciating the art and the music, and then summarising the plot as succinctly and accurately as I could, I didn't really get any actual enjoyment out of playing the game. And you know what? That is totally fine, because it leads us to our teachable moment. Not every game is designed for everyone. If you're designing a game, it's a bad idea to try and appeal to what corporate-suited studio executives call the broader audience. Because if someone tried to redesign Ecco to appeal to me, they'd probably take out something that makes it appeal to someone else. If you're crafting something and you sand off the rough edges a little bit too much, then what you end up with is a generically smooth, rounded ball of beige boredom that everybody looks at and goes, it's alright, I suppose. Which is honestly the worst possible ending for a creative thing, which leads us smoothly into our... I don't dislike Ecco the Dolphin. I love the mechanics, the feeling, and the presentation. I even love the plot, even though it's bonkers. And I would absolutely put it at the top of the list of video games that need movie adaptations, because that sounds like it'd at least be interesting. But the puzzles and level design are very much not my thing, which is not to say there's even a criticism there, it's just that the way it's laid out and designed doesn't resonate with what I enjoy in video games. I sat down to play Ecco because I didn't when I was a kid, and because it's one of my wife's favourite games. Now, when I ask her what Ecco the Dolphin is about, she says this.
Swimming, bashing, jumping, drowning.
It's something meaningful and valuable to the people who do like it. And it'd be a bad game design choice to take that away to try and change the appeal of the entire game to someone who isn't really interested in the first place. Honestly, based on everything I've done with this, I'd recommend that you do all go and try it, because this is something that an indie developer could release today, and then they'd get a cult following over how insane it is. And you never know if it's going to be your thing. I might not like it, but you might. And that's sort of the point. And you might have also liked this video, and if you like this video, then be sure to like the video that you liked since you liked it, and subscribe for more videos like the video that you liked because you liked it, and I will see you the next time I'm thinking, hey, let's talk game design.